If you had to choose between saying a 2-syllable word or a 4-syllable word to sound smart, which one would you choose? Well, it might sound counterintuitive, but choosing the 4-syllable word will make you sound kinda dumb compared to choosing the 2-syllable word. Sounding stupid can deprive you of many things, and you could even lose life-changing opportunities because of how you sound. There are many ways to avoid sounding dumb, and you should continue watching this video to find out how. Welcome to Alux. Number 1. Don't pretend to know something you don't. Keep quiet or ask questions when you don't know what your audience is talking about. You have nothing to gain by pretending you have knowledge. If someone asks a question and you're unsure what the answer will be, it's totally fine to say, I don't know, but I would love the opportunity to learn more. The truth is often more interesting than any lie or exaggeration we could come up with anyway. If there's something important that other people seem knowledgeable about, but if you know little to nothing about it, then try reading up on the subject before jumping in on the conversation, or simply ask some really good questions. Number 2. Don't mince words. Don't be afraid to say what you truly mean when talking to people. Don't be afraid of upsetting someone or hurting their feelings. Don't be an asshole, but do be direct. Otherwise, people will take advantage of your kindness if you're too nice and always trying to avoid any kind of confrontation. Be clear about what you want in a conversation, whether getting directions or asking someone out on a date. It's better if they hear it from the beginning rather than having them read between the lines later on down the road and then get mad at you. You may think that being nice should always be your number 1 priority, but that's not really true. Clear communication should be your number 1 priority. Being honest helps to clear up any possible misunderstandings between people. Number 3. Avoid buzzwords and jargon. In conversation, jargon is a way of speaking specifically to a particular industry or group of people. For example, if you're talking about your job as an engineer at Apple, you would use words like proprietary and hardware. But if you're not sure if your word choice is appropriate for the situation, ask yourself, does it add anything to the conversation? If not, don't use it. Instead of saying, I designed these headphones with proprietary technology that uses hardware enhancements, you could instead say, I designed these headphones using technology that nobody has access to. Much better. Number 4. Avoid cliches. What's a cliche? Well, it's usually a phrase that's been used so many times it's lost its original meaning, such as getting up on the wrong side of the bed or describing a tense situation as opening a can of worms. Why should you avoid these cliches? Well, because they're lazy ways of communicating ideas. They're unoriginal and unimaginative. You can do better. Number 5. Don't try to one-up everyone. It can be tempting to showcase your knowledge and one-up the people you're speaking with, especially if you want to impress them. But trust us, Aluxer, one-upmanship will have the opposite effect. Instead of listening to them waiting for your next opportunity to jump in and dazzle them with your even better story, listen to ask questions. Listen to understand. Listen to learn. Listen to connect. Let this person have their moment. They'll always remember you did. Number 6. Know your strengths and weaknesses. Knowing your strengths and weaknesses is important. It can help you to focus on the areas you're good at and work on the areas that need improvement. If you don't know yourself well enough to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are, then ask someone who does. Someone who knows you well will be able to point them out. If a friend or a colleague is willing to take some time away from their day to give you constructive criticism, then listen carefully and thank them for their time. Number 7. Learn to read body language. Remember that body language is a powerful communication tool. We use it to convey how we feel about what we're saying, but people could also interpret it as a sign of respect or disrespect. The next time someone asks a question, keep an eye out on their body language. Are they leaning forward? Do they have their arms crossed? If you can interpret what they're trying to say through their posture, it'll help you to understand them better and give you the confidence to answer appropriately. There are many books on this topic of body language, so pick one up and start learning. Number 8. Self-deprecating jokes should have limits. Don't be overly self-critical. Don't make too many jokes at your own expense. You'll come off as insecure, not funny. Don't joke about your weaknesses. People don't want to hear about how bad you are at sports or how little attention you pay to the details of your job. The key here is being honest without being too harsh on yourself or others. The same goes for using your humor as an excuse for mistakes. If a mistake is made, own up to it. Number 9, don't make assumptions. If you're talking to someone and you assume they know what you're talking about, then you might come across as arrogant or self-important. Likewise, if you assume that people will understand your jokes, agree with your opinion, or like you for who you are, you might still come across as arrogant and self-important. Don't say it if you have nothing to back it up. Don't say it if you don't have the evidence to support it. Don't say it if you don't have a good reason for saying it. Number 10. Consider the consequences of your words. It's important to consider the consequences of your words. What impact will they have on others, on yourself, on the world, in the future? As you prepare to speak or write, ask yourself these questions. What's the point of what I'm saying? Who am I talking to, and what do they need from me right now? What tone should I use to communicate this so I'll be clearly understood? If you're going to give a presentation, you should also ask, how does my background affect how I perceive this situation or problem? How can that get in the way of a productive conversation about it with someone who has a different perspective than mine? Am I going into this conversation really prepared with all my facts straight and with my position well researched, without any embarrassing gaps in logic or reasoning along the way? Ask yourself these questions first, and that presentation will go a lot more smoothly. Number 11. Know when to let things go. Don't argue with someone who is wrong. If they don't know better, it's not worth the effort to explain why they're wrong. Don't argue with someone who is stubborn. If they won't listen to reason and are determined to be right no matter what, there's no point in continuing that conversation. Don't argue with someone who's being a jerk. Sometimes people just want to pick fights or be confrontational. They aren't worth your time or energy in any case, so it's just best not to engage with them at all. Number 12. Research what you want to talk about. Research the topic. This should be obvious, but it can't be stressed enough. If you want to discuss the current situation in Syria, well, do your research. Find out what's going on there right now and how people are feeling about it. A good rule of thumb is not to talk about a subject if you're not 100% confident in what you're saying. You'll just end up looking like an idiot later on. Also, you lose credibility as people might question whether or not they can trust anything else you say. Always keep in mind who will hear what goes down during these conversations before diving into something controversial or personal. There may be some awkward moments later when things get heated. Number 13. Admit when you don't know something. A surefire way to sound stupid is to pretend like you know everything. And on the flip side, it also doesn't look good when you're such an expert in your field that you don't need any help or advice from anyone else. You need to find a happy medium between those extremes where you admit when other people know more than you, and you also ask for help when necessary. And this can be hard, but admitting your ignorance doesn't make other people think less of your intelligence. It actually makes them think that you're smarter. Number 14. Choose your words carefully. This is a simple rule, but it's one that many people forget when they speak. When you're not careful with what you say, there's a good chance your conversation could take an unexpected turn or take on negative connotations that weren't intended by either party. Asking questions when you're unsure of something is always better than making assumptions or guessing about the topic at hand. It shows leadership and interest in learning new things. This is especially important for younger professionals who are still developing their skill sets. Remember, the world doesn't revolve around you. There's plenty left to learn. Number 15, and this one's a little bit of a personal pet peeve, don't say irregardless. Despite many people walking around saying it, irregardless is not a correct word. It's a portmanteau of regardless and irrespective, which means it actually isn't a standard word, but rather two words that have been mashed together. Another portmanteau is smog, which comes from combining smoke and fog into a word. Many people make the mistake of using these words in formal conversations, which quickly puts their grasp on grammar into question. And that's a wrap on our list for today, Aluxer, but you know how we often do. Here's a bonus for sticking with us until the end. Number 16. Accept criticism graciously. If someone criticizes you negatively, perhaps they tell you you're stupid, well, have your revenge by taking it with grace. Even when others are being offensive, play the charmer. Take the high road. Rather than take offense, see it for what it is. Criticism, even if it's poorly done. There are some good intentions behind it, even if it's an insult. Suffer the fool gladly and take away the lesson. There's no good to be gotten from returning that insult by being aggressive. Seek to improve how you communicate so you sound smarter, which will be the best revenge possible. Thanks for spending some time with us today, Aluxer. We're so glad you did. If you found some value with us today, why not like the video? Hit the bell icon to never miss an upload, and hey, don't forget to subscribe.